Welcome to a special series of This Week in Canton City Schools, where we're focused on the mental health and wellness of our kids and families. I'm Jacqueline Power, the Broadcast Media Program Instructor here at the Timken Career Campus of McKinley High School and your host today. The Canton City School District continues to partner with the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Agency. This agency provides a myriad of resources to the Stark County community and, most importantly, to our students within CCSD. Each month, we will feature resources and strategies to help the mental well-being of our young people. On this episode, we are talking with Dr. Seandra Walker and Dr. Emma Farkas. Sit tight, all of that starts right now. As we continue to look for ways to balance the demands of day-to-day life and the obstacles we can face, our mental health and wellness continues to be at the forefront of the needs of our young people. This continued series of shows with the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Agency will provide all kinds of different ways to address the needs of our youth in regards to mental health and wellness. Today's content contains themes in which may be unsuitable for our younger viewers. This content is a little more serious and more mature in nature, and as such, may be something you want to view with your child at your discretion. Our continued partnership with CNA has enabled us to be able to bring to you topics and content that span a wide spectrum of behavioral norms. So this particular topic is one that encompasses a more mature set of terms and language. With that being said, the experts in this area are here to help us today navigate this heavy topic and help all families work with their children to create healthy, balanced young people ready for each step of mental and behavioral maturity as they grow into adulthood. So let's start today's segment with the introductions of some of the staff that will help us sift through our topic today. It's been about a year since both of them were a part of the program. So before taking a deeper dive into our specialized agency program, let's start off with Dr. Walker and learn a little bit about our guest today. So Seandra, please refresh our memories. Where did you grow up? What colleges did you attend? I believe our viewers would be interested to know that you grew up in Colorado but went to school in Louisiana. So tell our viewers what life has what it's like in each part of the country.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in Aurora, Colorado, and I went to Colorado State University for my bachelor's degree, and then I moved over to Louisiana, went to Louisiana State University for my master's and my PhD program. So Colorado is beautiful, and Louisiana has the best food and college football. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like the two sides of the spectrum. So if you want peace and quiet,
Colorado.
If you like a little more of the party life and active, Louisiana's where it's at.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, great. I love it. So please also tell us a little bit about how you became first affiliated with CNA and what positions have you held at the agency?
I've held a lot of positions at CNA. So I came in 2016 as a predoctoral intern. The following year, I did my postdoctoral fellowship in 2017, and then I became the SIBR program director in 2019. Been loving it ever since.
I love it. So we'll move on to Dr. Farkas. So Emma, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what colleges you attended.
Yeah, so I am originally from Buffalo, New York. I completed my undergrad in Pittsburgh and then did my graduate program in Chicago. So similar to Seandra, a little bit of everywhere. And I came actually to Ohio for a postdoctoral fellowship where I could really focus on working with youth with inappropriate sexual behaviors and learning and growing in that area. And so I was very fortunate to be accepted at CNA, working and training under Dr. Walker and just continuing to learn and grow in that area.
So yeah, how'd you become affiliated with CNA? So I feel like you've been in cold, windy places. So Canton probably feels the same. So tell us a little bit about how CNA became your home.
Sure. Yeah, so just as I mentioned, I really wanted to hone in on my skills in terms of working with youth with inappropriate sexual behaviors. And there aren't too many areas where that's a possibility in terms of opportunities for us as professionals. And as we know, for clients looking for help and support in that area too. And so Canton, Ohio with CNA has a wonderful program, in my opinion, in our SIBR program. And so I've came in 2019. I've been here ever since, and I plan to continue my work in the SIBR program with CNA.
So as the program manager, kind of provide a brief overview of what the acronym SIBR, which, so we're clear, it's SIBR means, and then a brief overview, obviously, of like the whole program, and then we'll get into more of the specifics in a few minutes. So.
Sure. So yeah, SIBR stands for Sexually Inappropriate Behavior Remediation. And the goal of the program is to eliminate inappropriate sexual behaviors, but also at the same time develop and strengthen skills that are necessary for healthy and happy relationships in the future. So our program, SIBR, is kind of an umbrella term, and we have sub-programs within that. So we have a full treatment SIBR program, so that's for our youth who have been adjudicated in court with a sexual offense. So some services within that program include individual therapy, group therapy, and then whatever additional services are required. And then we also have the Healthy Sexuality program, and that program helps youth better understand topics related to sex and relationships.
Emma, let's begin with learning about the SIBR program, and then we'll kind of get into some of the other topics. So go ahead and tell us a little bit specifically about that program.
Yeah, so in the SIBR program, as Seandra mentioned, we work with youth who are struggling with inappropriate sexual behaviors or harmful sexual behaviors. Primarily in the full treatment SIBR program are youth that have been adjudicated. I actually run the group therapy for the youth that have been adjudicated, and so that's one area that I focus on, as well as risk assessments for the court too. As Seandra mentioned, we also have Healthy Sexuality, which are for youth who primarily have not been involved in the court system and I just need kind of that little extra boost in terms of education and support, whether it's regarding education or support in their boundaries and relationships.
Okay. And then kind of from a parent educator perspective, I've heard a lot about sextortion. I think you're like scared as a parent. You think, oh my gosh. So it's obviously a growing concern. I have two daughters at home. So explain to our viewers why this behavior is unsafe or inappropriate.
Sure. So before kind of diving into sextortion, I do want to also clarify sexting before talking about sextortion.
Sure, absolutely.
So sexting is when we are creating, sending, receiving, keeping, or sharing any sexually explicit material via our electronic devices, whether that's cell phone, email, social media, etc. In the state of Ohio, it is considered illegal when it's involving at least one minor, and which is something a lot of our youth, as well as parents and families, don't know and don't understand, which is obviously a big issue or a big concern. In the state of Ohio, even when sexting takes place between two minors consenting, it's still considered a crime. And in the state of Ohio, it's considered CSAM, which is child sexually abusive material, or what was previously known as child pornography. Again, that's a state-by-state law, so here in Ohio, that's what it's considered. And again, a lot of youth and families don't realize that. Sextortion, on the other hand, typically begins when a youth or a minor sends at least one sexually explicit image or video, and then the perpetrator in that situation is requesting or demanding kind of more and more images or videos. Most often those demands will then kind of take place with threats or coercion. For example, if you don't send more, or if you don't send money or other kind of goods, if you will, I will distribute this image to your family. I will send it to your friends, your classmates, your teachers, kind of exposing that youth, which then puts the youth in a very dangerous situation. This can lead to a lot of course, anxiety, depression, stress. We see a lot of self-harm and suicidal ideation, and unfortunately, as often we hear in the media, unfortunately, death by suicide at times. One thing to note too is oftentimes we think that the perpetrators in sextortion cases are adults, kind of preying on minors. This is not always the case. At times, this does occur between two minors in dating relationships, and sometimes takes place as a part of a breakup or kind of a revenge type situation. So it's like you said, very scary and an increasing situation that we're seeing.
So kind of continuing that conversation with sextortion, how can I best inform kind of our students, or even, whatever's going on in my same thing, signs of potential sextortion, and if they're approached online, what steps should they take? So where can we go from there?
Right. So that's a really good question, and Dr. Farkas broke down sextortion beautifully. Something that we've seen a clear sign of sextortion, and that something that teens and parents should know, is the perpetrator will usually ask for the nudes fairly quickly after following or friending a kid or a teen online. They will pose as another same age peer, and they'll usually send a nude first. And this nude is not usually of the perpetrator, it's of somebody else, some other kid. So it'll make the victim feel a little bit more comfortable, or even a little bit more pressure to send one themselves. So yeah, that's something that we need to definitely keep a lookout for. And because of this, and this is both of our advice, don't send nudes, no matter if you trust the other person or you feel like you know the other person, just don't do it. Like Dr. Farkas said, there's something, a term is like revenge porn. So after a breakup, a person will send the nudes out and distribute them like across the school or post them online. So it's just good just to avoid it in general. Yeah.
I guess before I kind of continue, I guess when you have teenagers at home, I have teenagers I work with every day. So if that exchange takes place, then what do we do? Like and are there even signs that I can be paying attention to? I mean, it's such like a broad topic, but once it's happened, I think for teenagers, a lot of times it's like, oh, well, I did this thing, and now I'm like, okay, now I got to cover this thing up on top of this thing. And when it's like, okay, just come clean with it all. So when is obviously the right time is all the time, but how can those steps take place? How can parents or even an educator that's like a mentor say, okay, let's go a different direction with this, and let's get you before it gets to the place where it becomes sextortion and it's really like a much bigger problem?
Yeah, definitely open that communication, open that door with your kids. Ask them questions about what social media they're using, if this has happened to them, because a lot of times kids will say like, yeah, somebody asked me for nudes, but I deleted them, or I blocked them, or I did send something and I was scared to tell you. There is this really neat new software through the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, where there's a sextortion cyber tip line that kids and teenagers and parents can go and say, hey, I sent a nude and it's been posted on this website, or it's been posted online. And this software will help to find the photo and scrub it off the internet. It's brand new and it's wonderful, and it can be anonymous. Kids can go on this website without their parents, and if they're not comfortable yet telling their parents that this happened, and try and get it removed from the internet.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That even has to exist.
I know,
but I feel like that maybe that is a real viable solution then.
Right.
Like in real time.
Yeah. Because when kids send these things, we know that their brains aren't fully developed yet, and they're not really thinking about those long-term consequences of if it's posted online, it's out there, and it's really, really hard to get it removed. And so NCMEC is trying to help. They recognize that kids make mistakes, and that we need to try and get it removed so that they can have healthy and safe futures.
It's not permanent.
Right.
Because there's such a permanality about once it's there one time. And obviously screenshots of something, that's not help, but at least like the original imagery can be, so I guess that's a little bit of comfort, right? I feel like I kind of have digressed in our segment, but it's genuinely, I guess, as a mom and as a parent and somebody that works with teenagers every day, like it is a real, I guess, fear, because being a grown adult and knowing and looking back at a time in which none of those types of things existed, and maybe I made mistakes or maybe I said things, but they're not permanently etched into the world forever, and what that pressure would feel like, I don't know what that pressure would feel like. And that sometimes, coupled with the act itself, really sends young people kind of over that edge that I can't turn around and I can't come back. And I'm hoping that today there's always a comeback from all of it. Right? Okay. So if a kid is being blackmailed over a photo online, or just whatever it might be in this regard, what specific steps should be taken?
So we ask kids to reach out to a safe adult, no matter who that is. That could be a therapist, a parent, a coach, a teacher. Let somebody know that this is happening and that you need help. And like I said, contact NCMEC. You can contact the FBI or the Internet Crimes Against Children. Every state has a location for that. contact law enforcement. We also do say block the perpetrator, but don't delete the messages, because that's really important for the investigation. After you delete it, it's really hard for the FBI to trace that. So, yeah, that would be a big tip.
And I would second everything Dr. Walker has shared so far, and really just kind of going back to having those communications and conversations with your child early on before they even receive their first cell phone, right? Before they even receive access to the internet and social media and everything, and keeping that door open, letting your kids know, hey, I'm going to have access to your phone, your electronics, your social media, not because I don't trust you, but because I want to keep you safe from everybody else out there in the world, right? And again, as Seandra mentioned, just letting them know, you can come to me, you can come to another trusted adult, and we can have these conversations.
And this is happening earlier and earlier. We know that perpetrators are on Roblox and Minecraft and
Fortnite.
Yeah. And devices or platforms that are meant for really, really young kids. So like Dr. Farkas said, these conversations should be happening as soon as the child has any type of electronic device or has access to the internet.
Which that's super scary.
Super scary. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So many of your clients, so we'll kind of switch gears. So I understand most of them or many of them are court appointed to receive services. So we'll switch from kind of like that parent mode to, okay, now, all right, now we've got law that has kind of stepped in and said we need some services. So when a client is appointed to the program, what feelings, emotions is a client feeling, and then how does that healing process start? So they have kind of gotten involved in whatever it might be, and now legal action is taking place, and then does the client believe they've violated a person's rights? So it's kind of a loaded question.
Sure, yeah, no, I mean, of course, every client's different, every person's different. So typically a wide range of emotions when a client's first joining us and first coming into the program. But for the most part, we see a lot of anxiety, a lot of discomfort, often some embarrassment, some shame. Oh my gosh, my parents found out. Oh my gosh, now I got to talk to this strange lady about what I did and my most private information, or maybe images and, things of that nature. And so typically those, I would say, are the majority of emotions or range of emotions that we see. In terms of the healing process, again, everybody's different, so that kind of starts at a different point and looks different for everybody as well. But most often it starts with addressing those initial feelings as they're coming in and joining us in the program, with some education and psychoeducation as well, and then kind of going from there and progressing through the program from there. And then in terms of that third point, recognizing if they violated the rights of others or caused harm to others, yes, the majority of our clients that we see, either from the moment they've stepped in our office or shortly thereafter, do recognize, wow, I've made a really unhealthy or unsafe choice. Most often to the point where I've either harmed myself or harmed somebody else. It's more rare that we see a client who does not recognize that harm, but we do see it at times.
Okay. All right.
I hope I've answered all the points there.
Yeah, it definitely is a loaded question. So I apologize for the loaded question. It could have been separated out. So, Seandra, you have a program, and I read online, called Healthy Sexuality. Can you kind of explain what this program entails?
Sure, yeah. So it is a program that's psychoeducational in nature, so it's more like an amped up health class. It's 8 weeks long. We have a boys group and a girls group. It can be delivered, the curriculum can be delivered in a group format, but also individually. The age ranges for that program are typically between the ages of 12 and 18, but we also, fortunately and unfortunately, we get referrals for younger kids. A lot of our referrals are 10, 11, 12 years old. So we'll modify the curriculum just to be more developmentally appropriate for those younger kids. The topics typically include developing and maintaining relationships, boundaries, consent law, sex offense laws that a lot of kids don't even know that are offenses. It's important for them to know that. And the effects of pornography, human trafficking, internet safety. We've been modifying the curriculum to make it more relevant and appropriate for what kids are dealing with today. So
that changes so frequently.
I feel like every year we're kind of updating that curriculum to make it appropriate for what they're dealing with. Yeah.
And meeting the needs, like, of you're talking developmentally when you're 10, 11 years old, even 12, like I'm thinking 10, 11, 12, and then you kind of like turn into the teen, but the minds of our young people are exposed to very, very different things.
Yep.
And the earlier they get exposed to certain things, obviously would trigger different kinds of then responses to what they identify as a healthy relationship, I would think.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And sex education is a big thing too that we focus on in healthy sexuality and also the full treatment SIBR program. And we're learning that a lot of kids aren't learning about sex in school. We'll ask them like, oh, have you had sex education in health class? And a lot of these kids say no. So we're almost like that first look into that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the tide kind of shifted in
Yeah.
public education or exactly why the curriculum was adopted a little different way. So sometimes politics and red tape. So it really was the school's responsibility for lots of years to maybe step in and hopefully reinforce the conversations happening at home. So maybe that's something, our state has kind of shifted to, okay, well, we want maybe families to take the lead on that, and then we can offer support in local agencies if parents feel, it's not quite enough at home. So maybe that's kind of where the trend has gone. But I almost feel like the more information, the better.
Right. Yeah, we're also seeing, just on that note, unfortunately, a lot of our clients haven't received the education at home either, and so they're really kind of lacking it, I think, from those two large areas, the family system and then the school system, and then they're coming to us like, we don't know anything, and so it's almost like a fresh slate in terms of that education.
And then you can intercede where it needs it, and then kind of help grow in the areas in which would make the most sense. So. What levels of remorse or empathy do you see when working with the clients, and then kind of what is the success rate of those clients who have completed the program?
Sure. So again, the majority of the time we do see a high rate or high amount of remorse and empathy. Again, we do have clients and have had clients where that is lacking, and obviously those clients are struggling with some other issues as well that requires, I would say, a more focused treatment and maybe some longer term treatment. But the majority, we do see remorse, we do see that empathy, guilt, shame, those kind of heavy hitter emotions. And in terms of success rate, again, the majority of our clients do succeed from our program. They do graduate successfully and go on to not reoffend or have inappropriate sexual behaviors. And then just in general, too, the research shows in terms of recidivism for sexual offending or inappropriate sexual behaviors is very low. It's about 3 to 5%. And so that's something we also like to teach kids and families that are concerned, oh no, is this going to happen again? Does this mean my child is, going to go on to do all these horrible things? Probably not. We're probably going to do just fine after this, right? And so that's kind of some good news to share in all of it.
And as far as kind of that behavior, does it seem to be a growing problem among adolescents, or does it seem to have leveled out? I don't know.
Sure. So I would say in terms of the sexting behavior, we have been seeing it increase, of course. We're growing access to electronics, especially at younger ages. And as we mentioned earlier, unfortunately, without that open communication and education earlier on, it's almost like a wide open door to the internet, which is, thousands of possibilities there. So we're seeing an increase in sexting. We're seeing an increase in the sexting and inappropriate behaviors among younger children, and then we're also seeing an increase in the inappropriate behaviors, including sexting, among females, unfortunately.
Such a heavy topic. Sure. So do you feel like kids are sending pictures or material because it's a little dangerous? They're like living on the edge? I don't know. Believe that they'll not get caught? Or is it just a simple case of teenagers not thinking through the situation and just making mistakes?
I think it's a mix of all of that. Okay. Like I said before, the human brain isn't fully developed until we're early to mid-20s. So teenagers are bound to make or engage in impulsive or risk-taking behaviors. But also, like Dr. Farkas said, this is becoming kind of their norm and a part of flirting or relationship building. It's not necessarily the healthiest or the safest, but we also aren't naive to believe that kids aren't doing it. A lot of kids are, some kids are getting caught. So we feel like it's our responsibility as educators and as therapists and as adults and parents to educate our kids and help them better understand that there are long-term consequences to this. And with Snapchat, we've had kids tell us, oh, the picture disappears, it's not a big deal. Well, we know now that it doesn't disappear and that it can definitely stick around. So yeah, we're just here to educate and then hope that kids will take that information and then make good choices moving forward.
And as their brains mature and start using all parts of the brain, which isn't until you're 20-something, but that's all right. We'll hope for the best, right? So speaking of kind of age, what is the age range of your clients, and are there warning signs that parents or guardians who maybe suspect there's a problem? Are there markers we can look for?
Sure. Yeah, so our age range typically within our program is 12 to 18, but we've worked with kids as young as 6, 7 who engage in inappropriate sexual behaviors. Yeah, so some of the signs parents can look out for, I know Dr. Farkas hit some of these, but like a drastic shift or change in mood and behavior, social isolation, withdrawal from others, like changes in personality, appetite, sleep, just daily functioning, feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, guilt and shame. And then like Dr. Farkas said, like that suicidal ideation and even attempts or self-harm behaviors. Yeah.
Question before we move on to, I think we just got a couple things left. So if I see those things in my child, then what do I do?
Because that can mean a lot of things.
It could.
There's so obviously the communication part I know is so important, but what else? Like what else can I look for, or what do I do to help them?
Yeah, a lot of times kids aren't comfortable talking to their parents, right? We wish that they were, but sometimes they're not. So contact us, contact a mental health agency, get them involved in therapy, or if they have other supportive adults in their life, if they have a coach that they really like, or a teacher, or an uncle, or a family member, have them kind of intervene and ask some questions and open that door too, because we don't know what we don't know. Right. So we need to find a way to figure it out and get them the help they need.
Absolutely. And are there other agencies in the area that provide services, or CNA, like, is this kind of unique to CNA?
Sure. So our program, to my knowledge, is the only cyber program that's as comprehensive as ours, and we are DYS certified or certified by the Department of Youth Services as well.
All right. And then finally, if a parent feels their teenager is struggling or sending and receiving inappropriate sexual material, what number can they reach out to the two of you for help?
You can contact the cyber program at CNA in Belden Village, and the phone number is 330-433-6075.
All right, and obviously, child and adolescent website works too, right?
Yes,
So that absolutely works. So thank you for all that information and all those resources. It's always a good parenting moment for me to be able to kind of, refresh my brain too. So for more information on this topic and so much more, you can visit the CNA website, www.childandadolescent.org, or call the CNA office, like they said, at the Belden number 330-433-6075. Thanks to Dan Mucci, Mission Advancement Director, for helping to coordinate this episode and future episodes in this partnership. As for the TV11 staff, we'll continue to bring you an inside look at our district each week during the regular school year, in addition to the series of shows on mental health and wellness. So if you're a staff member and would like to have a feature story on our program, please email me at power_j@ccsdistrict.org. We'd love to have you into the studio to showcase the valuable experiences our kids have here at the Canton City School District and the supports we have in place to educate the whole child. Please visit our website at ccstv11.com, where you can get information on all of our shows and watch us on your favorite device. We will see you next time.